So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. My monitor goes bouncing down the road off of my side by side. Is there a bypass?
No, not really.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
I mean, that is ultimately the downfall. That's
Yep.
there's no bypassing that because you have no depth control. There's just nothing to tell it to go up. There's just nothing there. So, yeah. My point in asking that is be mindful of where you're mounting. I know Josh covered, but I really wanted to push that. I haven't had anybody that's got the new ones have any issues yet. I mean, but somebody will at some point in time.
Well, it's like any iPad PDA you take to the field. Someone's eventually going to break it.
That's
I mean, it's going to happen.
Is it difficult to disconnect the monitor? Like,
No.
Could you just disconnect the monitor, put it in your truck?
No, it's really easy. You just unscrew it. It takes
And then put it on when you got there?
takes 4 seconds. I mean, you just have to do it.
Does that come with a bracket?
Yeah, it comes with just a pretty much cheap bracket. We mount a RAM mount to it, and then we put it wherever we want it. We just drill a hole and put a RAM mount on it, and it goes. Most guys put it in their side-by-side up in the corner. They can look at it, but they never touch it. You get used to hitting the other buttons, and it just seems easy. But the newer people that haven't never run one, they just hit the start button. So it's personal preference. Yep. Can we get the PowerPoint up? And this is just the overview. On the home screen, what you'll see every time it comes up, you have the status of the sampler, so it's going to say ready. When you hit the start button, it'll say probe down, probe up, probe rotate. It's going to tell you what the sampler's trying to do. So if any point where it's not moving, at least you know what it's trying to do, so you can kind of narrow it down from there. It's going to tell you your current depth, it's in centimeters. Total number of cycles on the Wintex. There's one that's resettable and there's one that's not resettable. So if you ever do buy a used one, you can actually know how many samples it's run. Then there's the extra rotation is just a button on the home screen. Over on the right-hand side, you got probe up, probe down, so you can move the probe wherever you want to. You don't have to go back to the Honda engine and push those valves in anymore. You can rotate it. They have some extra switches on there. There's talk. This is completely adaptable, so anything they do in the future, they can run through this monitor. There's talk about putting extra soil containers on there, so you don't have to get out to get each soil container. It'll fill up 5, whatever they're trying to come up with. That's the big reason why they moved to the monitor, is just so they can, it's pretty much unlimited what they can do with it afterwards. You always got the start. When you use the monitor, you hit your brake, hit the start button, it goes down, comes up. You let off your brake, the sampler's going to stop where it's at, or you hit the home, it's going to stop where it's at. You'll see on the screen you got the menu button. That's what gets into the diagnostics and the setup. If you go to the next screen, once you hit the menu button, you're going to have a test menu and you're going to have a setup menu. In the next screen, setup menu is very easy. I don't know why they put this in there, if people are daydreaming out there, but you can set the number of sticks you want per sample. So if you set it at 8, they can only take 8. Then you have to reset it before you can sample again. If you want to, if they're daydreaming and they just want to make sure you take this amount of samples, then you can do that. Otherwise, you set it to 99, it's unlimited, just like it is. To change any number on here, you just press and hold the menu button. It works like your enter button. It'll start flashing. You move it up and down. You push the menu button again. Go to the next screen. Sample depth, anywhere between 0 and 12 inches or centimeters. Again, you push and hold the menu, move it wherever you want. If you start really nice in the, when you get harder fields and you know you need to go just a little bit more into the soil, so you don't have to go down there twice. You can do this in a second. You don't have to get off, move the thumb screws down, and try to guess how much you just moved it. I mean, it's just quicker. Go to the next one. The height from the home position. So with the new Wintex, it has a sensor rail inside, has 2 sensors, so it's counting on the way down. So it knows where the home spot is and it knows how far you want to go, so it's counting the rail on the way down. It's not just reading a bottom sensor that messes up and you go past it, so it's a foolproof system. It works well. Next screen. And this is the offset. It's what you have to plug into the Wintex. You have to put the Wintex on your machine. You measure from the tip of the probe to the soil. You run the probe down, it's going to give you a number, and it's just going to tell you just going to tell the monitor how far the probe is off the soil. So you can always get an accurate depth. The next one. Probe delay. So this is like the number 2 option on the Wintex right now. Instead of having the 1, 2, 3 switch, you can now delay it at the bottom so it sits down there and rotates. So it's gonna, if you want a half a second, you want a second. If you just want to make sure that you're getting the full core, if it lifts you up a little bit too much, you can just add a second, so it's gonna sit down there 1 second, rotate, then come up to the top. And you can, you can turn that to 10 seconds if you want to. The next one. Power supply just tells you your voltage, so you don't have to worry about taking the lid off and reading your red or green light. It tells you how voltage you have. If it gets much under 11.7, it's not going to work. The centimeters is just your current, where the head is currently. So obviously there it was all the way to the top, so it's at 0. The next one. Monitor keys just tells you if a button's broken on your switch or on your screen. You hit a button, you should see one of those turn to 1. Just lets you know your monitor's working. Next one. And the switches, again, you flip a switch, just tells you your toggle switch is working, and it's not bad. If for some reason you hit start and it wouldn't go start, you could at least diagnose that your switch is working. Next one. LEDs, again, just making sure that your monitor's working. When you push 1, you should see a 1 show up. The next one. This is the digital input. So it's gonna tell your sensors. Each one of those I2, I3, J2, J3, K2, K3 is a sensor. Once it is active, it will let you know a 1 will appear. Tells you your sensor is good. It's easier than having to find that light in a dark spot. And the next one. Analog in is going to tell you the voltage there. When a sensor is active, you're at 2.7 volts. When it's not active, you should be at 10.7. If you're anywhere in between the 2.7 and the 10.7, your sensor or the cable to it is bad. And again, we will have this available for everybody. Email me, email Jeff. We will get you a copy of it. I don't expect you to remember all this. You'll just have to, quick reference guide. It tells you the depth sensor, the rotation sensor, your brake light, your start switch. So maybe you can diagnose things out in the field even if you had access to it. You can see which one's turning on and which one's not turning on. Next one. Inputs is just what the probe's doing. You probe up, probe down, probe rotate. There's a lot of spares. There's now a GPS option on this as well. You can plug into a PDA. It just sends a signal out if you want to mark everywhere you take the hard part is it marks everywhere you take a core. So doesn't really work in grid sampling because you're going to have 8 spots all in the same area. But guys will use it in zone sampling when they want repeatability in the zone so they can go back to everywhere they take a core. The maps look messy, but it works well doing that if you want the repeatability of grid sampling with zone sampling. The next one. That is the Con Micro. That is what's up in the gray box on the newer systems. Weather packs on top. We have not had one problem with any of that. It's tighter, more secure than what that is showing. If you ever have issues, again, You can have this as a backup, but it tells you what every pin does. So if you ever wonder why you're not getting a brake light, then you can go to that pin, see if you got power there. Next one. Parts breakdown. This is on our website. I know other people have used it, ordering parts through Jeff. It breaks down every part you can need with the part number, with the part name. Many people with Jeff, they will fill up their card on our website. They'll screenshot the website. They'll send it to Jeff, so you will never get a part wrong. Assembly, disassembly, a lot of new guys will use this as a reference on, they took it apart but can't remember how it goes back together. It's got every bolt, every size. Really works nice just as a reference. You can just screenshot your order, send it to Jeff. You'll know you'll get the exact thing you wanted. There's pictures. There's new model versus old model, especially with the Honda engines. So you get what you need. The next one, upgrades. This is what has changed with Wintec since they came out. Now you can see it on that Honda engine. There's now an oil cooler on the engine. On the back side, there's an oil filter that you can actually get to. You don't have to take the tank apart to clean your oil filter. That oil filter or that oil cooler keeps your oil about 20 degrees cooler. What we've noticed is why we're taking out pumps is they're burning out. So put the oil cooler on there. It saves pump, saves downtime. I think they're $300 for if you have an older engine and $450. We just sell them at cost. Just upgrade, less downtime.
What hydraulic oil are you recommending at this point?
I got that on the next slide.
Okay.
Yep. Second one is just that rail system. Like I said, if I was replacing the drilling head, I would get that rail on every single one. If you're not replacing the drilling head, then you gotta kind of decide if you want to torch your drilling head apart or just wait. Then the third one is just a bigger soil container. Like I said, some people love it. Some people don't take enough cores to even fill their other bucket up, so it all depends on your situation. Next one. This is the recommended hydraulic fluid. It's HTC Supreme with the varnish shield. It's a Schaefer oil. It is expensive, but this oil, it's about like adding the oil cooler. We did testing. It's 15 degrees cooler just by using this oil over that Dextron ATF fluid. Wears better. It's just a far superior oil. I would, next time you change your oil for sure, which you should be doing every year, I would definitely put that in. If you go on their website, type in your zip code, it's going to tell you the closest Schaefer dealer to you. I think it was like $110 for a 5-gallon jug, so it's not that expensive. Just get it. Once you do change your oil, there is no drain plug in the tank. Buy one of them cheap electric pumps, stick it down there, drain it all out so you don't pull the whole tank off and lose all oil all over yourself. Much easier. If you ever have to replace a pump, make sure when you get your tank off, you look for metal shards. If you find metal shards in your tank, you're going to find them in your Wintex, your hoses, your valving. Generally, we'll throw the hoses away. It's not worth it for what hoses cost. You take that top DO3 valve off the valves, and there's 4 ports. Just stick an air hose, blow them all out. Make sure you're standing off to the side so you don't get hit with oil. And do the best you can to clean it up, especially the tank. Those shards are what takes out pistons, and then you could take your piston apart. We don't. It's a lot of work. So we just run with it there, because if they're already in there, it's probably bad regardless. Is there one more slide, or is that it? That is it.
So in regards to that, we may not have a slide to be able to kind of show, but if you could explain one of the common questions I get in regards to when someone's first getting a machine in particular, but we can look at the oil pressure, but how do you adjust that hydraulic pressure if necessary?
That's a good thing to ask. Even with some of the guys that have been running the Wintex for 5 years, the A port on the Wintech or on the Honda engine needs to go to the top of the Wintex. That is your down pressure. The B port goes to the bottom. It can work backwards, but you can never get your pressure set right. So you want to double check that. A goes to top, B goes to bottom, and then you can dial in your pressures. On the older system, there's 2 black thumb screws. The one in the middle is your total pressure, which would be your up pressure. The one on the side is your down pressure. On the newer ones, they're stacked on top of each other, one above the gauge, one below the gauge. The top black one is your down pressure. The bolt sticking out is your up pressure. 1350 max on your down. Up, we run all the way to 2000. It's only going to use what it needs. When you don't have your pressure set high enough, what it does is dumps oil over the relief valve into the tank, creating heat, which takes out pumps. So you want to make sure that you have your pressure set correctly. The easiest way to set your pressure is unplug first get on the Honda engine, push those 2 little valves that you can push with an Allen screw to move it manually, or if you have a monitor, you hit probe down, see which one's which, and then unplug the quick couplers from your Wintex, hit it for a second. It's going to max out your pressure. Don't hold it. Hit it for a second. It'll spike your gauge. Then you'll know exactly what you're set to. If you put it into soil, if it only requires 1,000, then that's all it's going to tell you it's using. So make sure you deadhead the pressure. But like I said, don't turn the valve all the way in, then do it, because you can wreck stuff. So you might even want to back it out if you think you're a little high. And then use the right oil. That filter is really easy to change now. I mean, they're like $3. Change it once a season. Use the right oil, and that is the key to saving pumps. Because about 3 years ago, we went through so many pumps, so we found a solution with the oil cooler and everything else.